Hey friends, Mr. Spitzer here. I noticed some confusion on the parts of a story, so I wanted to remind people and create a lesson of the day. Because going forward, knowing the parts of a story is super important in order to better understand the story and to be able to track characters and character actions across the story. So, knowing the parts of a story and plot mountain, or some of you may know it as Story Mountain, is going to be really important for you. So I wanted to go over the parts again with you to help you better understand. So right away, this big word here is exposition. And exposition is just the beginning of the story when they talk about the characters, the setting, where the story takes place, and give you some background to the rest of the story. Another word for exposition that you use frequently is introduction. So this is just the introduction of the story. As you can see, just like a mountain, we start going up here, and this is called the rising action. Now, rising action is when your characters in your story begin to struggle and they come to challenges that they may face. Now, challenges might be obvious. If you have a conflict with someone, there might be a bully. Those are all problems that are super obvious. But sometimes conflicts that arise in the rising actions can also be conflicts with yourself. So if someone is very shy and they're trying to be brave, they're struggling inside, and that's internal. We don't always see that. It's not so obvious. But here in rising actions is where characters start to struggle or you notice a problem within the story. Now, I think everyone remembers what we said the climax was. We said climax is the most exciting part of the story. It's where the suspense is built during the rising action, and it comes to the highest point in the story where you might have, if it's a fantasy novel, a big fight scene between the protagonist and the villain of the story. So it's that critical turning point where the conflict or the problem that's been going on for the whole story has come head on. And everyone remembers that is the most exciting part of your story. Now, after we have the climax, we then have the falling action. Here is where tensions start to ease. It's similar to rising action where it's not the most important part, but things start to sort themselves out. And last, you see here, we have the resolution or the conclusion where the problems or conflicts are usually solved. It's the end of the story and everything is worked out. Now, while it's really important to understand a story mountain and how all stories really progress, it's also important to realize that the climax is not always right in the middle of your book. When you're reading, the most exciting part of your story could happen in the last 10 pages of your book. So it's important to realize that this isn't just like the halfway point. The most exciting part isn't just halfway through your book. You're finding where the climax is in your story. You're finding the most important part. I hope everyone better understands the plot mountain or story mountain so that when you engage with your fantasy books and you start reading, it's easier for you to track your stories. Talk to you guys soon.